The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL. You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I would like to play one of my favorite old NFL Network game. I think they still do this on like NFL Network panel shows sometimes. It's been a minute since I've actually been able to tune into them, but like I think like a lot of you, I grew up watching like Rich Eisen, and this was before even like Kurt Warner was still in the league. It was like Rich Eisen and Mike Ditka and Michael Irvin and like that whole panel of like the game day morning guys, and they would play Panic or Patience, which would always happen in week 2 or after week 2, and they would go over all the 0-2 teams, and they would say, should we be patient with these guys, or is it time for these teams to totally panic and things are falling apart, right? A play on the old Owen Tombstone, that pattern where once you go 0-2, there's kind of only like one 0-2 team that'll ever even make the playoffs, let alone be a contender. Well, the Vikings aren't 0-2, so if the NFL Network ever did that segment this year, they are not going to be a part of it. But I think we probably are still a little interested in asking that question, don't you? I'm sensing a lot of panic. Maybe it's just the texture of the mailbag from yesterday, but I'm sensing a lot of panic. So I have 3 particular things that I would like to address, whether or not the Vikings should panic about them or apply a little bit of patience. JJ McCarthy's performance, the general health and depth issues on the team, and the run defense, and how it kind of got gashed really, really hard on Sunday night. But we'll start with panic or patience about JJ McCarthy. My answer for JJ McCarthy is gonna be patience. Very firmly, it's going to be patience and not panic. I think it's like, look, it's really easy to see the early returns not go the way you want and say, oh my God, we got to get out of this before it derails 7 more years of my life, right? And it's super easy to like apply that in hindsight, to go look back at, the first couple of games of Kirk Cousins, right? Kirk Cousins laying an egg against the Bills in week 3 of 2018, the game where Josh Allen hurdled Anthony Barr and Kirk Cousins fumbled the ball twice right away, and say, oh my God, we got to get out of this before we end up in the pits of mediocrity for 6 years. And it'd be like really easy to like apply that situation to this situation, but I don't think that that's what this is at all, right? JJ McCarthy is not a veteran. I love the way that the hot taker yesterday put it. This is not somebody that we have 6 years of precedent on and like priors. This is somebody that is not the final form of himself. I would say that for every single one of these 2024 QBs that are all in various stages in their development right now. Caleb Williams is sort of getting better, but there's all these problems under the hood that are being reported on and speculated on. Drake May has his blemishes. Jaden Daniels is like sophomore slumping after this total disaster against Green Bay. And Bo Nix is not beating the ADOT allegations. Like, all of these guys have blemishes right now. And I think a lot of them, I think the same like cope can apply to every single one of them. They're young. They're new to the NFL. Talk to me in 3 years and tell me if he's still doing all that. And watching back the tape of the Atlanta game, I really very rarely found myself looking at that and saying, yeah, that was JJ McCarthy really screwing that one up. It was either the line not doing things right, and maybe McCarthy had something to do with that in a way that I can't know. Maybe he gave them the wrong play call or something, and that's why guys didn't know who to block. Maybe that is on him. I kind of have to set that aside and let that be for people who are just in the room. But like, I don't really feel like a lot of it is his fault. I am trying my best to assign blame to the place that I think it is. And it's weird because I'm watching a protection bust and saying, I think the most veteran guy on the offense in Brian O'Neill is the one who screwed this thing up, which is what I think on the strip sack that came from number 96 with his two hands in the ground that made me go insane. I do think Brian O'Neill just made a bad decision there. Watch my Patreon video, patreon.com/LukeBrownNFL for a more detailed breakdown there, but I'll spare you that for now. Point being, I just kind of think a lot of it was that he wasn't the one that did the thing wrong. That doesn't mean there weren't bad plays. That interception was terrible. He took a sack he shouldn't have taken by bailing on a clean pocket. There are a couple of misses you probably remember. Those things are bad. And I'm not going to sit here and say that JJ McCarthy secretly had a good game or anything like that. No, it was not a good game by any stretch of the imagination. But in terms of like concerns I take away, the most consistent concern is that they couldn't get the play calls in on time. And I don't know whose fault that is. So at the very worst, I can say there are some things that are maybe his fault. But that certainly does not elicit panic. And that's very much an experience thing. That is a thing that only occurs in the high pressure of a game that counts. I don't even think preseason really translates into that all that well. Yeah, you're like running the huddle in the game day process a little bit, but it's still like a dress rehearsal. It's the crowd's not bumping, right? Like the atmosphere isn't quite the same. And I just kind of think that everything that did go wrong for McCarthy is the kind of thing that gets better with just a little bit of experience. Now, here's the thing to maybe panic about, and this is what people are really panicking about, is that he's now going to miss 2 to 4 more weeks with a high ankle sprain. He's probably not going to be back till after the bye, that game against Philadelphia. So we're about to watch Carson Wentz tour the AFC North here and go across the pond. And for some of us, we don't think that that's the first time that he's been over there. If you know, you know. We maybe should keep him out of cursed Chinese restaurants, or maybe put him back into a cursed Chinese restaurant, depending on how you believe the Freaky Fridaying happened here. But the point being, oh no, he's going to miss more development time. I think this is one of those things where it's really easy to feel like every day is 4 years of your life. Like it's super easy to just get lost in the moment. And, Philadelphia week 8 feels like it's 100 million miles away. This is not JJ McCarthy sitting out a whole year again. He's not out for the season. They didn't even put him on IR. And they had that would have happened on Wednesday if they were going to do it. That means that they think that there's at least an outside chance that he's going to be ready before 4 games. And if they did put him on IR, he would be required to miss that game against Philadelphia. So they're at least like targeting that time for a return. And this is ultimately a short-term injury that they're going to work through the best they can. I should also mention that that injury was the result of a hip drop tackle, or at least something the Vikings are accusing of being a hip drop tackle. I see the debatableness of it. For me, I would probably call it one, and I think that Falcons player is going to get fined for it if I had to guess. But if he doesn't get fined for it, I certainly wouldn't raise any eyebrows on that. It's like a pretty borderline thing. But the Vikings did send the play to the NFL, and it was commented on the broadcast. I've seen some, I'm going to say it, pretty dumb people out there trying to garner your attention by coming up with a conspiracy theory about this, that the Vikings are like softly benching JJ McCarthy for Carson Wentz. That would be a panic thing to do. And that's not what this is supposed to be about. This is supposed to be the patient development of a young quarterback. It was always going to be like this a little bit. And he just didn't play benchable poorly enough. I just defy you to tell me how that's worse than what so many other young quarterbacks, so many other teams have stuck through with their young quarterbacks. I mean, we saw so much worse from guys like Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson in New York. We saw so much worse from Josh Allen for 2 years. I know he's the one that, you always cite, but we've seen a lot worse without guys getting benched. I think if you believe that, you need to change your sources of information. And I think if you're hearing that a lot, you should really look at what else those people have tried to convince you is true in the last few months, because I think there are some people out there that don't really have a beat on what the Vikings are doing, and maybe you should stop listening to them. But for me, it's patience. We'll have to be a little patient for a month now while he comes off of this high ankle sprain. And then when he's back, we have to be a little bit patient still with the operation of everything. Maybe a month off to gather his thoughts, collect, reflect on what went wrong in that Atlanta game will be good. It's a bad taste in his mouth for a while. He's probably going to come out super fired up. But just to kind of have that moment to sort of take stock and process might be good for him. But we're still very much in the wait and see place.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
We take a look back at Monday Night Football at Allegiant Stadium, not necessarily the play on the field, but the action in the coaching booth.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast.
The biggest news and notes that came out of the Monday game with the Raiders at the Allegiant Stadium without being on the field happens to do with the coaching booth and happens to do with minority owner Tom Brady. Now, at some point in the game, ESPN's cameras caught Tom Brady. He was in the coach's booth. He was there on the second deck. He had a headset on. He didn't have his the microphone down to his face, but he did have the ears on and the headphones on, listening to what was going on in the play calls from Chip Kelly down to the sideline. Now, with that being said, there was also a report from ESPN that Chip Kelly said and confirmed that Tom Brady meets with him 2 or 3 times a week. They go over game plans, they go over film and try to set things up, which Pete Carroll, after the game on Monday, said that was inaccurate. On Tuesday, when he was asked about it by Vinny Bonsignore, he said, no, that's not something that happens. And as a matter of fact, Tom Brady is actually a guy that is following every rule that the NFL has put in place for him as a broadcaster and a minority owner, knowing that there could be a reason for that being like a cause of, a conflict of interest. But in fact, that's not the case. But the cameras caught him, right? And again, I say caught him very loosely because if he was trying to hide, he could have, right? He could have been anywhere in Allegiant Stadium. He could have been on the low trying to communicate if he was trying to be sneaky. Obviously, he wasn't doing that. The coach's booth is nothing but windows, right? And he was right there. And trust and believe, while the cameras are scanning the stadium, Tom Brady is easy to see. Now, he's easy to see unless you're me. And what I mean by that is I was at the Torch before the game, got to meet and greet with a lot of Raider Nation. And if that was you, I shout out to you, man. It was great to meet you, shake your hand, and chop it up, talk a little Raider football. And obviously sorry for the outcome. But after I left the Torch, I went to the elevator that I always go to. It's pretty quick move to the press box. And so this guy that runs the elevator, Perry, I always talk to him when I get in. So as soon as I opened up the elevator, he saw me. What's up, kid? What's happening? So I'm talking to Perry. We're basically side by side, and I'm looking at him. Right. And so I'm not looking in front of me. I'm looking to the side of me. Like I'm looking like this. If you're checking me out on YouTube, you can see I'm looking that way. I'm basically looking out of Studio Q right now. That's what I was doing. I was looking at the doors of the elevator because that's where Perry sits, and he presses the buttons on whatever floor you're going to go to. The press box is on the 4th floor, and the Torch is at, 150? So there you go. So we have to go up a couple levels to get to the press box. So after me and him are done hee-hawing back and forth, talking, laughing, joking, oh, I see you on TV. I see you doing this. All right, cool. Everything's great. We get quiet for a second, and I look right in front of me like I'm looking at the camera right now. Yeah, there's some guy in a big tall guy in a black suit. That would be one Tom Brady. So it was so funny. I started laughing because I realized he was standing there, and there was only a couple of us. Normally, this elevator is pretty packed. There literally was 4 people. Tom Brady, his guy, me, and Perry. And that's it. So I look up, hey, how you doing? He's like, hey, man, how you doing? I was like, I'm good. And I couldn't think of what else to say. So I was like, hey, man, congratulations on the flag football that you're going to be a part of, as he announced that at Allegiant Stadium around 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday afternoon. And he said, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to it. Cool. Max Crosby's going to be a part of it as well. And then all of a sudden he made a beeline off the elevator. So, it wasn't my finest moment with Tom Brady in the elevator. Thought I could have got a couple good words in, maybe said this, that, and the other, introduced myself. I don't know. That would have been a smart idea. No, didn't do it. So trust and believe. There's plenty of places Tom Brady could have been in Allegiant Stadium where he would have been out of camera's view. He chose to be in camera's view. So that, to me, makes it feel like he wasn't trying to do anything sneaky, wasn't trying to bring information to Chip Kelly and be able to put together a really good game plan. As you know, he's part of some production meetings as part of Fox in his 10-year, $350 million deal. So on Tuesday, the NFL said Tom Brady did not violate any NFL rules by wearing a headset in the Raiders coaching booth during Monday night's game. They said in a statement that a minority owner with the Raiders and a broadcaster for Fox, he is prohibited from going to a team facility for practices or production meetings, but the former star quarterback is allowed to sit in the coach's booth, and that's according to the league. They said there are no policies that prohibit an owner from sitting in the coach's booth or wearing a headset during a game. That was JJ McCarthy. He said that in a statement. Brady was sitting in the booth in his capacity as a limited partner. But then they said all personnel sitting in the booth must abide by policies that prohibit the use of electronic devices other than league-issued equipment, such as Microsoft Surface tablets for the sideline viewing system. So that was the statement that was rolled out by the NFL on Tuesday. Obviously, a lot of people made a big to-do about this because Tom Brady is the broadcaster. He does get information from teams somehow, some way. He communicates with them by Zoom or Teams or whatever the case may be. He's not allowed to be in the facility. A lot of people think that it's foul that he's able to do that. This is what Adam Schefter, as a part of Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio on Tuesday morning, had to say about the whole to-do, Tom Brady being in the booth.
I don't buy into it as much as other people do. Like, I think, forgive me for being trusting and understanding, but I think Tom Brady understands what's professional and moral, and I don't think he's sneaking into the Chiefs facility as a broadcaster, stealing secrets and then dispensing them to the Raiders. The information that he gets, we all can watch the film and see tendencies of players. He's studying a lot of film of a lot of guys. And I just think one of these things is a little bit overstated. I understand why people raise it. I just think people are being a little oversensitive about it in my mind.
So Shefty didn't think it was a big deal, and it's really being overblown, most likely because it's Tom Brady and it's the Raiders. Those two combinations right there obviously don't go hand in hand, but look, Tom Brady's got 350 million reasons why he doesn't want to mess up this situation with Fox. He also is part minority owner of the Raiders. Another reason not to mess this up, right? I'm sure if he were to get caught doing something sneaky, then, well, why wouldn't they take his minority ownership away? Right? I'm sure the owners would get together and say, yeah, we can't have that, and he'd probably have to sell his shares. But Chris Canty, also part of Unsportsmanlike, it's Evan Cohen, Chris Canty, and Michelle Smallman. They do a fantastic job, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio. Had this to say about Tom Brady being in the booth.
These cheaters around here, we've got to – no, man. That's not the business. That's not the industry. Everybody is looking for a competitive edge, and a lot of these teams go right up to the line, and a lot of these teams cross the line. So I don't have an issue with Tom Brady using every advantage at his disposal to help move his franchise forward. I have zero problem with it.
Agreed.
At all. I'm just acknowledging that I think that it does provide a competitive advantage because you have somebody that has a lot of football acumen asking pointed questions to head coaches and star players, and he can glean information from that to help his team.
So not necessarily exactly on the same lines of Adam Schefter. Hey, man, he's a minority owner. He has the opportunity to do that. No problem with that. Look, the Colts owner, she's on the sideline. She's got a headset. She's got her notebook. She's taking all kind of notes. Nick Caserio, he's the GM of the Houston Texans. He's in the booth with a headset on communicating. The only difference between those two and Tom Brady, Brady's a broadcaster. Brady could talk to the Chiefs. Brady could talk to the Chargers. Brady could talk to the Broncos. Brady could talk to you, fill in whatever team you want to fill in. He can do that as long as he's part of the Fox broadcast. And so they think that that information is going to come back to the silver and black. And I'm sure that this story is not going to go away anytime soon, only because this upcoming week, he's going to be on the broadcast for the Bears game. And who do the Bears play after the Commanders at Allegiant Stadium? Yeah, you got it, the Bears. So how much information are they going to give him, if any? Are they going to want to do that, knowing that he could possibly go back and talk to Chip Kelly and try to put a game plan, I do that in air quotes, together for their game? Maybe they don't want to do that. They feel like, oh, yeah, this is definitely a conflict of interest. That's a subject that I don't think is going to go away anytime soon.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet in that moment. Player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in the action live as it unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
We're plotting the path for a Buffalo Bills win over the Miami Dolphins in Week 3.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast.
The offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins is Frank Smith. He's 44 years old, his 4th season in Miami, but he's an offensive coordinator that's not a play caller. Mike McDaniel is their play caller, and they got a lot of cooks in the kitchen here in Miami. You got McDaniel, who's the head coach and play caller, Frank Smith, who's the offensive coordinator. They've got Bobby Slowick, who was the Texans offensive coordinator the last couple of years. He's now their senior passing game coordinator. Darrell Bevel is their passing game coordinator. Chandler Henley is a run game specialist. So they got a lot of different cooks in the kitchen here with this Dolphins offense. Let's break down their metrics so far through 2 games. They are averaging 17.5 points per game. That's 25th. They've passed the ball 72% of snaps. They've run the ball 28% of snaps. That's the highest pass rate in the league. That's the lowest run rate in the league. And I think, there's some game script things that matter. I think the Dolphins want to run the ball a lot more than that. But they got smoked right in Week 1 against the Colts. That game was out of hand. And so they're in a position where they have to throw the ball a lot. And then you go to last week against the Patriots, they're down 12-0, after the first 2 Patriots possessions. And so that obviously is going to put you in a position where you got to throw the ball a lot. They are 23rd in EPA per play offensively, 24th in EPA per pass, 10th in EPA per run. They're converting 45% of their third downs. That's 10th best in the NFL. They're only scoring a touchdown 25% of their red zone trips. Only 4 trips to the red zone so far, 1 touchdown. That is 30th in the NFL. Let's talk about their personnel, and we'll get into this wide receiver room. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, still there, right? We know what these guys can bring to the table. They are explosive, right? Speed demons. And obviously, that puts a lot of stress on the defense. They can get vertical, and they can win after the catch. They're very dynamic receivers. Obviously, Tyreek Hill not coming off of a good season for him, but a lot of production last week against the Patriots. So those are their primary 2 receivers. Then in the slot, or I guess they're going to move guys around, but the third receiver is now Malik Washington. Good-looking young player, was a day 3 draft pick a couple of years ago out of Virginia. Really good yards after catch. I think he's got a chance to be a good slot for them. And then they also have Nick Westbrook-Ikine, who gives them a size element to this receiver core, a blocker, a guy that can score some touchdowns in the red zone, has some big play potential. He's their size piece of this receiver core. At tight end, Julian Hill is the guy that's played the most snaps at tight end. Tanner Connor, who's a converted college receiver, he's in the mix. They've also got Darren Waller, who they got out of retirement and traded for him. I don't know if he's going to go or not. He's been limited in practice. As of the recording of this podcast, he's not really played. I don't know what to expect there. But I think they've completed 1 pass so far this year to a tight end. So after last year with Jonnu Smith and all the production there, it's not really been a part of what they're doing in the passing game so far. You also have to factor in Alec Ingold, who's one of the premier fullbacks in the league. That's a big part of their blocking surfaces overall. At running back, it's about Devon Achane. Small, shifty back, but he's really, really explosive. And he's the guy that they've thrown the ball to the most this year. He's leading the team in targets. He's leading the team in carries. So this offense really so far has been about Devon Achane, and he's a very potent playmaker. His backup, I suppose, is Ollie Gordon, a draft pick this past year out of Oklahoma State. They haven't really trusted him to touch the football, but he's the backup. They've got Jeff Wilson, who's been around Mike McDaniel for a lot of years, kind of a plotting power back. I don't know if he's going to really get involved. They have Jalen Wright, who's been injured. I don't know if he's going to be available for this game. A player they have a lot of draft capital invested in, but he hasn't looked good, whether it's preseason or regular season touches. So they've got other backs, but it really feels like it's all about Devon Achane right now at running back for them. So when you look at the distribution of carries through 2 games, Devon Achane has 18 carries. The guy with the next amount of carries is Malik Washington who has 4. That's the slot receiver. Then Ollie Gordon has 3 carries. When it comes to target distribution, Devon Achane has 14, Tyreek Hill 13, Jalen Waddle 11, Malik Washington 7, then Nick Westbrook Akine at 5, and then, a few scattered amongst the other players. So it's about Devon Achane, right? That's the focal point of this offense. Let's talk about this offensive line that has already faced injuries. Their right guard and right tackle are on injured reserve. So let's work through it. Their left tackle is Patrick Paul, who was a rookie last year that they drafted to succeed Teron Armstead, and that's what he's able to do, right? They drafted him in the second round for him to start this year, and this is his first full year as a starter. Got a little bit of playing time as a rookie. Their left guard is Jonah Savianaya, a rookie out of Arizona. He's struggled so far through 2 games, giving up a lot of pressure. He's not played well. He's a player I like coming out of Arizona, but not playing good ball right now. Their center is Aaron Brewer, who is a really good center for this scheme. He's got a lot of range and athleticism. He's small, one of the smallest offensive linemen you'll see, but this guy can really move, and he's a good scheme fit for this offense. Now, some rumblings that he might not be available this week. Has had some injury stuff, and as of the recording of this podcast, there was reports that wasn't seen during the Tuesday practice, so we'll see what happens there. Their right guard is Keon Smith, who's been a developmental tackle for them that's playing right guard. Then the right tackle is Larry Borum, who is a player I think ideally they'd like to have as a depth player, but he's thrust into action here with Austin Jackson not available. So James Daniels was supposed to be the right guard. He lasted 3 plays. He's on injured reserve. The right tackle, of course, is supposed to be Austin Jackson, who just continues to have injury issues. So They tried to get this offensive line looking better, but injuries have really derailed the unit. So big question mark for Miami is this offensive line in multiple spots. So what are the keys for the Bills defense against this Miami offense? Number one, get Tua out of rhythm, right? You've watched Tua for years. You know how he plays. It's rhythm, it's timing. It's getting the ball out quick, accurately, spot throws into the hands of playmakers that are electric with the ball in their hands, right? How do you beat that? Well, you get him out of rhythm. And so whether that's quick pressure in his face, whether that's your coverage rotations that are designed to spin a certain way that, caps what Tua wants early and forces him to move his eyes, right? That's what you do. You want to do things that are going to get Tua to move his eyes, get him off his spot, have him work deeper into progressions, and that's where the wheels fall off, right? He's a physically limited quarterback. He doesn't have much arm strength. He doesn't have much movement skills. And so when you make him work a little bit and, have to really get his feet under him and make throws or, work off of his spot or dial up a tight window throw, it's not going to go well for Tua because he's limited. Now, if he can work within rhythm, he's unbelievable, right? Quick trigger, accurate on the short throws. Even he can rock and fire those deep throws, just, a quick hitch and rip the ball down the field. But if you get him out of that rhythm, as you know, the wheels can come off. So number one, you got to get Tua out of rhythm. Number two is, Devon Achane. This guy, they throw the ball to him the most, and they pretty much only run it with him. He's an electric player, but he's little, right? And so he's had injury stuff, but you got to have the right plan to deal with him. They're going to find ways to get him the football. Get him down on the ground, right? Take good angles, but ultimately, I think that's where you have to focus a lot of your energy. You think a lot about Tyreek Hill, you think a lot about Jalen Waddle, but Devon Achane is definitely the guy right now for this offense. And then number 3, I have written down Bills Mafia. This is a home game at Highmark Stadium. The Dolphins are a team that has a lot of issues offensively with procedural stuff, whether it's illegal shifts, it's delay of games, false starts. They have a lot of problems, especially on the road. Bills Mafia, do your 111th. Be loud. When the Dolphins have the ball, be loud. They struggle at home with that stuff when it's quiet. You get them on the road, and you can get negative plays without even having to make a play because Miami makes mistakes. So get Tua out of rhythm. Devon Achane is the playmaker to take away. Bills Mafia, do your part to get those procedural issues because this Dolphins team is ready to implode if they haven't already.